We're back with part 2 of our time with Carl Roberts. He gave us a grand tour of Highfield Farm, his home, garden, and amazing apiary. He quickly reminded me how integral he is to our beekeeping community. You've implemented your beekeeping into what you grow on the farm, and what I think is awesome about what you're doing is you're really planting things to not only give the bees something else to feed on, but to take care of them in the winter.
It hopefully helps them over winter, that's for sure. You know, it's hard to say that it absolutely does, but I believe it does, and I got the space, which I'm
battle,
fortunate.
right?
Most people that have bees don't have 4 or 5 acres that they can.
Right, and when you look at what we have here, is just, you know, in Delaware, in the state of Delaware, most people are so grass conscious about, obviously they tend to use a little bit of chemicals to make sure it's lush and green, but the biggest thing that I notice is you make a point of keeping most of your clover going.
Oh yeah,
that's great.
I mow it, and 3 days later it's back, you know, and when you mow it, you don't get it all anyhow, you know.
Sure.
It's still there.
Believe it or not, clover is a flowering weed, and it's often undesirable in most yards in America. Clover produces a light, mild flowering, sweet tasting honey and is an incredible source of nectar for honeybees.
I think something like buckwheat, you can tell because it'll make it darker.
Color is the difference, okay.
Yeah, now the yellow blossom clover that's over here, it produces a light honey, and
interesting.
Generally, you know, if you extract in July, that's probably what most of it is. It's things like the yellow blossom clover. You always seem to get a lighter honey early, and then if you extract late, you get a darker honey around here.
Carl, I really want to thank you for making the time for me to come see what you do best, see your hives, and see your expertise as a beekeeper. So thank you very much for making the time for me. I really appreciate it. Cheers.
My pleasure.
So you've been a beekeeper for a really long time. What are some of the things that you experienced that made you want to stay and become a beekeeper? My
uncle had bees, and he had them right outside his back door, and the kids would come and go, and they never seemed to bother anybody. So I naturally wasn't afraid to have bees. This old gentleman was very kind to give me all the equipment I needed, and then I knew I was going to be a beekeeper, and I sort of started going to the meetings before I actually got bees.
Oh, okay.
And then learning about them, you know, and also.
What year are we thinking that might have taken place? Around about?
I've probably been keeping bees close to 25 years.
Wow.
But yeah.
It's safe to say that beekeeping found you probably more than you found it.
It was kind of a collision, you know, something that happened for a reason, I would say.
Right. Great things tend to happen that way, and I'm sure you're happy that it did. Correct?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. In the hive, there are 3 types of bees. The female worker bee. She does almost all the work, from tending to the young, protecting the hive from intruders, and foraging for nectar, pollen, and building honeycomb. The drone bee, which is a male bee, and his main job is to be a player and ensure the longevity of the hive with procreation. Lastly, the queen. She sets the tone for all activity inside the hive. She lays eggs, often referred to as brood. People think she runs the hive, and although she has a lot to do with its success, it's the worker bees that make most of the decisions if she cannot do her job effectively. During our routine hive inspection, we're looking to locate the queen and a nice set of worker bees around her. It's also important to find eggs, which indicate her laying health. We also look for any honeycomb being drawn out, and lastly inspect any signs of pests or parasites. What exactly takes place when a bee is in, for example, a squash flower? What is taking place when the bee is in there?
Well, he's in there getting the pollen, and he packs it on his hind legs.
Okay.
You know, it looks like 2 pouches when he comes back to the hive.
Pollen is the main source of protein, and it also provides vitamins and minerals integral for a successful hive. It's also vital to brood production and development of young bees. The honeybee is the world's most important single species of pollinator in natural ecosystems and a key contributor to natural ecosystem functions. Have you ever wondered what dictates how many seeds are in an apple?
Pollen is what they're carrying from one plant to another and causes fruit to grow. And apples actually need to be visited a certain number of times, and you can tell by the amount of seeds in them how many times they've been visited. But to get a nice big apple, it's not just one bee visiting it, it has to be visited by several bees.
Carl has taken a lot of his land to plant things that give back and provide nutrients for bees. So this buckwheat area, the sunflowers, these are for his bees, but keep in mind, standard bees that might be 4 to 5 to 6 miles away can utilize his crops too, and that provides a survival mechanism for them, doesn't it? I mean, that's really what they need.
Not just that. A lot of the native bees work it too, and that's where the problem really is with the native bees decline, not so much the honeybees.
Carl and I discussed the projected decline of honeybees we've all heard. We both agreed that they are produced and curated by beekeepers worldwide. Unfortunately, it's the native bee decline that keeps us up at night, as they are on their own and don't have keepers assisting in their longevity. As a guy that's learning every day, your skill set means a lot to everyone in the state, and everyone that you've taught, or at least have been able to kind of get information from you. It's so rewarding, and beekeepers in general, thank you for what you've done out there.
I'm still learning myself.